They, I had a very small hand, and they used to take me up to the mount up here, and the deep drop down to the railway line was chalk, and in that chalk pigeons used to nest. They let me over with a rope tied around my waist to put my hand in and pull out the eggs. Oh, it was fun. We spent hours up there. And in the winter, of course, we had our trays and we came down in the snow, down the mount. Yes, it was, as I say, such happy memories. And coming home from school, my first stop was the blacksmith shop, and I sat there and watched him shoe the horses, make all the necessary things, and then it was home for tea. His name was Mr. Hans, and he showed all the horses. They came from all the way round. I mean, latterly they made ornamental things in there, the people that, but he didn't. He was sort of purely, well, there were so many horses, it kept him really busy. Yes, he was a real country policeman. In fact, he was quite a character. His name, the first policeman I remember was Butler, but I only vaguely remember. But then after that, a Mr. Barnes, and he lived in Fairpeace, the cottages along there. Oh no, there wasn't any crime. A few of us stealing a few apples and putting up our jumper, that was about all. I think, well, perhaps a little bit of the fishing, you know, on the bridge with a little bit hung over the side, and anybody come, you tucked it farther under. You know, it's that sort of... But there was no real crime. Don't remember any crime at all. But we really need a post office. That is the major thing that's missing. You see, people like me, I have to rely on a neighbour to go and get my pensions from Gibraltar. If you haven't got transport, it's rather difficult. Well, it did with the people before. I mean, he built it from nothing. I've forgotten what their names are now. Brian and Lydia. They came into it and it was nothing, and they built it. And so it can be done, but they put themselves out. If you wanted something and they hadn't got it, they'd get it in Andover and bring it out. It would be hard work for somebody, but... And I think perhaps people now realise what it is to be without one, and they would be more inclined to patronise it. It was a hollow trunk, and it was terribly sad when it was removed. I mean, half of us didn't even know that it was going to be taken down and a beautiful cherry tree put in its place. I mean, we old Wherwell people were rather sad about it. Yes, well, it was so hollow that you could get inside, and we played games and everything with the old pine tree. My parents decided, so many people used to come to the village, Americans, all sorts, tourists, always wanted a cup of tea. And one day they decided that maybe it would be a good idea to open the cottage. That was about 1937, I think. I wouldn't be sure about that. And it gradually grew from that, only a few. And then cyclists, they used to come from Southampton, and perhaps about 20 or 30 at a time. And it gradually grew until the war came. And then, well, it was absolutely invaded by troops. Well, it was called the Test Valley Tea Gardens. Yeah. My two sisters tell the story. They used not to want to go into the cafe. They wanted to be always in the kitchen with the parents. And so to get a seat for breakfast, they had to come down at 7 o'clock because they'd come down there at about 7:30 in the morning for egg and bacon. So unless they got there early, Sheila didn't get to school or my sister to work. How they managed without all the modern conveniences, but they did. These are my grandparents in Church Street. They lived in Church Street, and I think it's called Aunt Tush Cottage now, and Mr. and Mrs. Hawkins lived there. My grandfather was the head gardener at the Priory, therefore it was abundance of flowers everywhere. And I think my grandmother liked having a photograph taken because we have got lots and lots of her. She was a very pretty woman. And from there they moved to Fairpeace. Fairpeace, those cottages, Fairpeace, were built for the heads of the departments at the Priory. The first one was the policeman, but the rest of them were chauffeur, gardener, 2 grooms. All the heads of department lived there, and that's where I was born.